So, welcome everybody. My name is Sheraz Daya. Introduce yourself, Kristof.
I'm Kristof Vandekerckhove from Switzerland. Nice to see you all here. Hello,
And
Sheraz. Yeah.
good. And can you tell us a little bit about you? Where in Switzerland, and what do you do?
We're based in the most beautiful canton of Switzerland, in Wallis, in the south of Switzerland. We have a private clinic with 3 affiliates, and we're doing a lot of refractive cataract surgery. So that's where ISOPURE and fine vision comes in, of course.
Great. I'm based in the United Kingdom. I founded a group called Centre for Sight, and we do it all ophthalmology, but a lot of refractive surgery. And I suppose we're coming from two different directions. Kristof deals with medical need cataract, and I deal with both medical need and also vision correction surgery. So it's quite interesting. Hopefully you'll get some benefit from this conversation. So Kristof, you're a high volume cataract surgeon, and you started looking at alternative lenses for your patients. Can you tell us why you did that and that journey so far?
Yeah.
When did you start doing cataracts, and when did you start moving into more premium lenses?
So I think like 2 years ago, and I have a slide to show that. Like 2 years ago, we had a lot of monofocals, actually 90% monofocals, and well, so 2 years ago we introduced ISOPURE in the armamentarium. At that time, we had like 10% trifocals only. And thanks to the introduction of this new category, we went up to more than 50% of cataract patients getting ISOPURE or one of the colleagues like VVT. So, and of course, we have now a lot of experience with ISOPURE, and this experience gives us the confidence to expand the patient categories where we implant the premium lens. And actually we went into many categories where you would normally not be able to use a trifocal lens, and we achieved that. So we are offering now to many more cataract patients a refractive solution. So it helped us tremendously to be able to use that new category to use ISOPURE.
Okay, so some of these categories I would go ahead and put a trifocal in, but that's from years of looking at corneas and aberrations and so on. We can talk about that a little later. If you go back to your last slide, you've put in 1200 ISOPURE and 200 VVT. I'm curious, what have you found in terms of comparison between the two?
Well, it's always difficult based just on routine practice to compare lenses, and I think we
But that's real world. That's real world, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think we need more studies, and companies are not very keen on comparing the lenses. They come with their lens with a list of marketing claims, but what we as clinicians we want to know, we want to tease out the differences. And at the end of the day, it's not about being able to tell this lens is bad and this lens is good. It's about being able to customize our treatment to the individual patient. And to that end, we started a head-to-head trial with VVT and ISOPURE. And it's actually a double-blind prospective trial. We're including 136 eyes, and we're doing the full battery of measurements, visual acuities at all distances, photopic, mesopic conditions, and all patients get minimum of vision 0.5. And I'm more than happy to share with you the interim data because we are halfway.
Tell us the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. So best corrected visual acuity. We have 44 eyes at 1 to 2 weeks, 32 eyes at 1 to 2 months. It seems that there is in this double-blind setting, there is a trend in favor of ISOPURE. ISOPURE being better than Logmar 0, and VVT somewhat hanging behind. And a second, which is for me very important, a second safety parameter is always the mesopic vision. And in terms of mesopic vision at 1 to 2 months, also a trend in favor of Isopure. Now, in terms of the first objective of the study, the name of the game is intermediate vision, right? Both lenses performing very well. So this is monocular distance, monocular intermediate vision. Both lenses close to logmar 0.2 and no difference whatsoever between
So this
them.
is critical. 0.2 is a critical number.
And the same for near vision.
Okay.
We have close to 0.3 for both lenses. No difference whatsoever.
So 0.2 is the same as 6.9. And
So
to meet the EDOF standard,
It's functional vision. Yeah.
that's right, only 50%. So the ANSI standard for EDOF, whatever that means, 50% have to meet that that level.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the majority, if not all of them.
That's the average. Yeah.
Yeah. So which is amazing. That's distance corrected, right? Distance corrected intermediate vision. So that's useful to know. So this lens, a so-called monofocal plus lens, is actually an increased range of focus lens, and it's better than an
I
EDOF.
do believe that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Great.
in terms of the, it's early data, of course, but
Yeah.
in terms of the differences, maybe we can understand these differences more when we look at the defocus curve we have so far. So it seems that Vivity indeed has a little bit more defocus, like quarter of a diopter, but then they lose in terms of
This-
best corrected vision so far. So I would say fasten your seatbelts for the next couple of rounds.
That's great. So based on that preliminary data,
Yeah.
it seems that your preferred lens to provide reliable intermediate vision is the Isopure, right?
Yeah, for a lot of patients. And
So
your preferred lens is still fine vision, right?
the trifocal, but I do use Isopure where I cannot use a trifocal. So there's certain categories you just cannot use a trifocal.
Yeah. Your patients, I guess, they all tell you, I want to read as well,
Yeah.
100% sure without glasses, right?
Yeah, so that's a key. So satisfaction, patient satisfaction. We did this study with ACOS to reclassify lenses to see how we would categorize lenses, and we came up with a classification system that's now being used a lot by colleagues around the world, and now some manufacturers that I've discussed this with are actually going to start to use that terminology, whether or not it meets the ANSI standard or not. And for us, we looked at the data that was submitted by companies, and we decided to look at it from a point of from left field. There were patients. We were looking at satisfaction rates, and we looked at satisfaction rates of patients with different lenses, and we found there was a correlation with near vision. If patients didn't have near vision, they weren't satisfied. So that's key. Patients want near vision. So how do you accomplish near vision in your Isopure group? It's not bad, but how do you reliably give them near vision? Because that's what's going to make them happy.
So first of all, we don't promise near vision. That's the most important one. And second, we use minimum vision in all our patients. As I
So-
told you, 0.5 in the non-dominant eye. And with that, I mean, we have a retrospective study with Isopure, and 1 out of 3 patients, they reported on the PRISC questionnaire, they were able to comfortably do their near activities without glasses. So it's not like almost all of them, but 1 out of 3, they're also at near comfortable without glasses. But
So
you want to
so-
have your refractive patient, almost all of them, you want to
No,
have them.
so what I do with Isopure is I go beyond that. With the company recommends minus 0.5. I go minus 0.75 to 1,
Yeah,
just under 1, to minus 1. So it's a bit more than micro. And the lens has it truly has an extended range of focus on the conoid of Sturm. So it's fairly forgiving in that regard.
yeah.
But that reliably gives patients near vision. So we find that the bulk of our patients with this minus 0.75 to minus 1 in the non-dominant eye gives them near vision. They need some adaptation. And we tell them all that if they're going to read fine print for a long period of time, then they may have to wear reading glasses. But probably about 80% of the time, they don't need glasses at all.
Yeah.
And they
But
like that.
You're right. The lens is very forgiving. This is the EDOF curve, the focus curve on Isopure, and indeed, this is what you're talking about. It's forgiving. It's very smooth. So if you fall in the myopic range, you have up to 0.9 diopters you can play with. So with 0.9 myopia, the patient still has functional vision, being logmar 02 or better.
So they made
the only disadvantage we found that I mean, you must be very sure about the other eye, because if you have minus 0.75 minus 1 in one eye, the other eye you better not fall in the myopic range, because then the patient will complain about not seeing too well at distance.
Yeah, so I mean, some people might say, look, if you got 0.9 of forgiveness, why not move both lenses in that direction? You don't want to do that.
No, some companies are doing that.
Yeah, that's not the purpose of the lens.
There's that's mislabeling.
Exactly. It's a cheat. So this is real data, and that's great. So it's interesting. So if you go above 0.9, you'll find that distance vision will dramatically decrease, and patients will notice it. They'll go, if I cover my eye, there'll be 6.6 in one eye and 6 over 7.5 in the non-dominant eye, in spite of the fact they're able to read. And they quite like the fact that with both eyes open, they've got great distance vision. But what I do in hyperopes is I make them slightly plus in the dominant eye. Okay. In myopes, it doesn't really matter. They can be slightly on the myopic side. They're used to it. They're happy with it. Hyperopes hate being short-sighted. So I have to make at least one eye slightly hyperopic. And I make a great effort to do that. Yeah. That's just a pearl of wisdom. Otherwise, they torture you and they want PRK or laser eye surgery for a half a diopter of spherical equivalent, and that's kind of crazy, isn't it?
But you're targeting not 0.5 of 0.25 or less, I guess.
Well, 0.25 to 0.34.
Okay.
Plus.
Okay.
Plus.
Yeah.
I don't go for the zero mark. I go for the plus in somebody who's used to being hyperopic, because they've got to find, especially the latent hyperopes. When they're latent hyperopes, they have got a fine focusing mechanism all their lives. They're accommodating to a focus at distance. Yeah. They don't know it, but they've got crisp vision. And you take that away from them, and they will hate you. Yeah. That's a problem. Yeah. So I learned that a long time ago from doing hyperopic LASIK, and I've always erred on the cautious side in that regard. So that's a pearl of wisdom you can take away. And they do the same for fine vision lenses too. For trifocals, the hyperopes are made slightly hyperopic. They love the near and intermediate. It may not be as good as it could be, but they're happy with it.
In terms of patients keen on near activities, we play a lot with Isopure as well. So we have patients that really want to be perfect at reading distance and at computer distance, and they tell us, we don't care if for driving we need glasses. Isopure is really it's perfect for that. So then we aim at minus 1.5 max, and they're so glad at this distance, at their center of life. They're so glad. And then for driving, they have like minus 1.
No, that's good. So you still, I bet you some of your patients still see well at distance, though.
I beg your pardon?
Some of them that you aim for minus 1, they still have good distance vision, right?
Yeah, it's still functional vision.
Yeah.
But for driving, then they need glasses. Yeah.
So you're graduating now to being a refractive cataract surgeon in a major way. Trifocals. What's been your experience with trifocals, and why the hesitation?
Again, 2 years ago, before using Isopure, we had about 10% trifocals. We were very conservative. We didn't want to deal with too many complaints, also because our population it's cataract patients, they're older. And now today, after having so many Isopure in the clinic, we are above 10%. We have 15% of trifocals. We eat away our monofocal segment. So we only have 30% monofocals now, then 55% EDOF or IROF, and then 15% trifocal. So the trifocals is still patients, maybe younger patients, They really want to be completely independent of glasses.
How young? You're a cataract.
I mean,
practitioner.
young cataracts. I mean, yeah, I mean, 60
Okay.
is pretty young, right?
It is, yes. I hope so. Okay, so my practice is quite different. So our monofocals are less than 1% now.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason to use a monofocal when I have Isopure. It's a pity there's no Isopure toric. So
Not yet.
Not yet, it's coming. But what I do is I put a Sulcoflex toric on top. And I stick the lens, the optic in the bag with an Isopure. And that corrects high torics. Not done too many of them, a few. But yes, it'd be great to have a toric. So that's about the only time maybe some patients will have a monofocal toric if it's a high magnitude of astigmatism. Otherwise,
The lower ones, I mean, for example, in this study, we included up to 1.5 diopters of astigmatism and corrected with opposing incisions.
Okay. So that's
It worked well.
So for me, so now this is taking probably about 5 to 8% of our group, and the remainder are all trifocals and trifocal torics. There's a new HP toric that's out, that's phenomenal in terms of stability because it's got these C-loop haptics. They don't move. The lens does not rotate, so you get the benefit of on axis wherever you place the axis. You can there are some lenses that are pretty good in terms of their optics, their bitoric. But if the lens moves a few degrees, then you lose that benefit of that wonderful optic. Where here you've got a lens that stays on axis, you get the benefit of the astigmatism.
And surgery is so beautiful. You slip in the lens, and you can move the lens clock and counterclockwise. You don't need to do 360 degrees because the lens is just over the point. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's another phenomenal advantage over the toric platform. So I understand that the Isopure lens has loops,
Yeah.
but they'll be eventually become
Inverted C-loops. Yeah.
So the Isopod as opposed to the Isopure. So, well, that's great. So it's interesting that we have different sort of practices. Our patients come in wanting vision correction, even when they have cataracts. It's almost like a mindset. And I suppose their friends tell each other, if you're going to go and see these guys for your cataract, talk to them about trifocals. Well, we don't give them any option. They can only go downhill. So we start with trifocals, and if they're not suitable based on that scattergram that you showed there with dry eye or an epiretinal membrane or whatever, then they start to go downhill. They get very upset, but they're very happy afterwards if we give them an Isopure and a little bit of monovision at the same time. What's your worry with trifocals?
I beg your pardon?
Why do you worry about trifocals with your patients?
I'm worried about chair time, perhaps.
No, but what do you worry about with your patients? Why do you have some chair time? Why do you have more chair time? I mean, I've had more chair time telling a patient I'm going to give them micromonovision than I do with a trifocal.
Oh, we don't talk about micromonovision. I mean, 0.5 you don't even need to mention.
Well, we make a deal of it, so they don't come and haunt me after. When I cover this high, why can't I see a distance? You know?
Yeah, but with Isopure you completely compensate. I mean, 0.5.
Not always. They do this, right? So one thing I do tell them is don't do this. You walk around life with two eyes open, and that's what we're going to make do. So that's my chair patients. That's theoretical, but the patients do this.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, the vision may be 6 in one eye, 6 over 7.5 in the other eye. They notice the difference, and they want to know why. So I tell them beforehand. So then afterwards they go, aha, yeah, he told me that, and it's in the letter that I give them, and I sometimes have to point to the letter and remind them.
Yeah.
And remember,
maybe our patients are
different.
Probably less differentiated because I tell you, I mean, we're doing that thousands of times, and we never had any complaints about patients telling, one eye is like.
Yeah, but we have British patients, you have Swiss patients. Maybe they're a bit more compliant and they do as they're told. The British, as you know, don't do as they're told. They pretend they do, but they don't. Okay, that's interesting. So also, you probably have an older age group. Our mean age for patients is 62 to 63. Yours is probably higher.
74.
Okay, so
74.
and because they're cataracts, they can only benefit. They only gain.
Yeah.
So with us, if you're doing refractive lens exchange, yeah, you want them to gain, not lose anything, and we have to counsel them about that too. But I'm getting to the point of dysphotopsias. That's what you're worried about, right?
Yeah, and also, I mean, our patients are older. They have a little bit of AMD. We have a lot of Zika in our area,
Yeah,
and
so
it's a very dry area. So there's a couple of reasons not to aggressively go in with trifocals. Yeah.
But if they were suitable for a trifocal, I'm sure more than 10% of your patients, or 15% of wherever you are right now, are suitable for trifocal. What's the worry?
Yeah, the dysphotopsias. We have a lot of. I mean, where we live, our region, people are very outdoor. They're doing a lot of sports skiing. They want the best possible vision at distance.
So in our experience, and we have similar patients in that regard in terms of sports. So ours are a younger age group, more sporty, one could argue. But they're fine with fine vision lenses. So the issue of dysphotopsias is interesting. I think it's overrated, and it's the complaints are usually because they've not been counseled and they've not had their expectations managed prior to surgery. So we tell them all, 10% will get dysphotopsias, and they will hate it. They may not be able to drive comfortably, but it gets better with time. And what evidence do I have for this? How many lenses have I removed because patients didn't like their night vision in time? None. And I put in more than 9,000 trifocals in them. So I've not had to remove any because they couldn't drive at night or they found the dysphotopsias disturbing. They'd eventually do adapt. So setting their minds right before surgery is key. So it's in our literature, it's on our website. Our staff will tell them, the videos tell them, I tell them, the letter tells them. And I use those words. I'm telling you again, so you heard from me. And I want you to go, aha, I have it. I'm one of the unfortunate 10%, but I know it's going to get better, and you just get on with it.
Yeah.
And that just those words, those sentences makes all the difference.
But the mindset of your patients is completely different compared to the mindset of our patients. I mean, your patients come in with no glasses. My patients come in with, oh, my cataract.
Yeah,
you know.
So we get those too. But because we set them up just for trifocals, right from the word go, I made the mistake once. I won't do it again. Where I stereotyped a patient. She was 83 years old. She'd been through the system, which was geared towards trifocals. I booked her in for a monofocal lens. This was probably about 8 years ago. And she went to she kept booking her surgery. And she goes, well, this is really inexpensive. I thought it was going to be more. And said, well, no, this is for the surgery you're going to have. And she looked and said, well, why am I having a monofocal lens? And so they came to talk to me and said, well, why is she having a monofocal lens? I said, well, I didn't think she wanted a trifocal. No, she absolutely wants a trifocal. And she's a bit upset because you're going to do that for her, so I'll bring her back. So I chatted to her and she said, well, yeah, that's why I'm here. I want everything. Why would I not want everything? I learned my lesson. So if they're suitable, doesn't matter what age, so well, would you like to be free of glasses? And what she said to me was quite interesting. I'm 83. I forget where I leave my reading glasses. I don't want to worry about that in the future because I'm going to get old and doddery and I want to be able to see everything. So, yeah, it's a good point. So she's, I'm going to go a few years to live. I want to live it well. And I don't worry about glasses. Oh, fine, so we did it. And so now that was ageism on my part. Yeah,
we had similar cases. I think today we are obliged to offer the full possibilities to all patients. You're not allowed anymore to tell the patient A, I mean, this is your lens, and patient B, this is your lens. You need to show all options before.
So I've heard this guy. I've had many Kristofs come through who graduated to something in between. You know, the Comfort M Plus or the a variety of in-between lenses. And the next thing is they're moved to about 80-90% trifocals because they get the confidence and they select out patients carefully. So I expect when we do this in a couple of years' time, we made a transition very quickly in 2 years. We'll probably find that you're over 50-60% trifocals. But at least you've got the balance with Isopure.
We are implanting trifocals since more than 10 years now. I mean,
yeah, but it'll be more.
What we also see from time to time, I mean, in patients where I have implanted 12 years ago and a trifocal a patient doing well, and then all of a sudden he's getting older, he's getting some AMD, then the patient is suffering exponentially more than with a monofocal or an.
So I've seen those patients myself, not with trifocals, with bifocals. They're coming in 15 years later with macular degeneration. But you know what the complaint is? They have to wear reading glasses again. So what happens is the energy is poor for near. Their sensitivity of the retina has gone down, and what goes down is the first thing that goes is reading. So as well, you got macular degeneration. But what's your distance like? Oh, that's great, doctor. I'm fine. I can drive. But it's reading that I have a problem with. So they still have good vision. It's not bad AMD. They've got some atrophy, some pigment changes. They've got some drusen there, but they can't read. Put the reading glasses on. They look for the distance motion of the lens, and they see fine. So it's not as bad as we thought. I don't put trifocals in patients with macular degeneration. I don't put trifocals in diabetics. I don't put trifocals in patients who've got have got reduced sensitivity from glaucoma. I don't just look for field casts. I look for their threshold. I don't want them to. I don't want to put a lens in and find they can't read because their sensitivity is poor. So we need to do the best for them. So I customize as well. But if they're normal, I also worry about the future. And I tell them, look, in the future you may get glaucoma. Destined to get glaucoma, well, that's unlucky. You may get macular degeneration. And what will probably happen is you'll lose your reading vision. And you have to reading glasses right then. But in the meantime, you're free. And they're like that. So, a lot of pearls. Does anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes.
You are both mentioning mini monovision strategy. So I would like to know which eye are you going to operate first, the non-dominant or the dominant, and how do you use this information?
In our case, it's very easy. We do consecutive bilateral surgery in all patients. So we don't need to...
Same. Unless the diabetic, I might do the dominant eye first. And then the dominant eye 2 days later. Or if they have glaucoma, I'm putting a stent in, I might wait 2 days before I do the next eye. But our bilateral rates are going up a lot too. Probably about 60-70% of our patients have bilateral surgery.
I think that makes really sense because especially with more complicated lenses, the neuroadaptation is much faster and better when you do both eyes at the same time. Yeah.
There's one here, quick question here.
Do you differentiate for myopes? Do you differentiate for myopes? Do you do? I mean, as in more Isopure for myopes and less
No.
fine vision.
No. If they're suitable for trifocals, they get trifocals. If they're not suitable for trifocals, they get Isopure.
Very high myopes, I don't put a trifocal. Then I really go to an.
Why not?
Because they have not the best possible vision anyway. So I don't.
Is that theory or science?
No, we see that. I mean, if minus 15 patient will never have logmar 0
for near
after surgery.
You'd be surprised because when they get a magnification effect, they got minification before surgery because of myopia. When you've done a lens replacement or cataract, they get magnification. So they get improved lines of vision, not just because the cataract's gone, but because you've magnified the image on the retina. And the same applies near. What they do have is a stretched retina.
Yeah, of course.
So instead of having a 4K sensor, they've got an HD sensor. they may struggle a little bit, but I think we're cheating them out. I would go ahead and put trifocals in them.
Okay.
And you know the level of fine vision goes down to +6. I wish it went lower. But we will do it. And I've done patients where I've done myopic correction after putting a +6 in each eye.
Okay.
Very, very happy patients.
Okay.
So it's worth considering. The macula looks okay on OCT. I don't see any reason not to put a trifocal in. Yes.
Thank you. Do you think the same contraindications that you apply for trifocal candidates apply for the EDOF, for the ISOPURE, let's say? You follow the same, I mean...
Not this one. So let's just talk about EDOF. It's a bad term, extended depth of focus, because they use, the assumption is all EDOFs are the same. They're not. They all work by different mechanisms. Some are diffractive, some are zonal refractive, etc. This is non-zonal refractive. So it uses spherical aberration, the front surface of the lens and the back surface of the lens. For each lens, it's got its own combination. So for, say, a low-power lens, it's almost plano or got a negative convexity, concavity in the front and convexity in the back. So every lens is unique. And it's a non-zonal refractive. So we're adding that to our classification in terms of mechanisms. So with this lens, no, there's no reason. I don't see any reason to use a monofocal lens anymore with this lens available. I just wish the lens was available down to 0 and -1 and -2 powers, all the way up to 40, and we'd use it all the time.
So you can put it in a diabetic, in a glaucoma patient, in an AMD, let's say early AMD or something? No.
Yeah, you see all the indications we've got now for ISOPURE in the clinic. Another nice feature, of course, is it's completely pupil independent in contrast to other EDOF lenses.
That's right. It goes out to
so the whole optic is covered with the.
So they call it an isofocal, which doesn't make sense. Because it's a more than ISO, meaning one. But what they mean by that is it's the focus is right across the whole lens. The benefit of that increased range of focus is throughout the whole lens. So it's pupil independent. Yeah.
Hi. Do you have experience on mix and match with a trifocal and an ISOPURE?
No, and I don't want to do it.
No?
I don't like talking. I don't like explaining myself to patients, and I don't like playing games. So I usually use both. I use the same lens in both eyes as much as I can.
Okay.
I mean, I like a peaceful life. I like to sleep well at night. I don't like grumpy patients in the waiting room. I'm sure none of you do too. And I don't want to spend too much time explaining everything to them.
Okay. We actually do that. We do a lot of mix and match.
For trifocal and
yeah. So for example, one eye trifocal is possible. The other eye, for some reason, there is a contraindication, and we put an ISOPURE in it, and it really works out.
But the other eye is not so good anyway. So they're getting the benefit in the good eye of a trifocal, the better lens.
Well, maybe put the ISOPURE on the dominant eye to get better distance vision, and the trifocal on the non-dominant eye to get better reading vision.
It all depends on the patient. The patient expectation, is he more near focused or more is his main interest distance? It's there you need a lot of time. You need to individualize your approach. Yeah,
there are a lot of gurus out there who talk about all this stuff, because I think I'm being very, very facetious, but I'm getting old now. I can be as opinionated as I want. They do this because they have something to talk about. In terms of, you hear them, all the gurus talking about how they mix and match and synergy in one eye and symphony in the other eye, whatever. All those crazy combinations. I like to keep my life simple. And I now leave the number of procedures that I offer patients very, very minimal. You know, if you go to a restaurant and there's a one-page menu, it's very easy to make a choice. If you go to a Greek diner, you've got pages and pages and pages. You don't know what to choose. And you know what happens is the patient leaves confused and doesn't get anything done. So my philosophy is keep it simple, stupid. Me being the stupid one.
Thank you.
There's a question here. There you go.
I have two questions. I understood you put this lens in eyes which are not suitable for trifocal. You told me. What is the benefit if these eyes are not suitable for trifocal? they will don't see intermediate with.
They do.
They do.
They do.
If they have
So-
a macular
so-
degeneration or gliosis, or they wouldn't see with this.
If it's that bad, then they need to see a retinal surgeon for the epiretinal membrane. But if they're seeing well, if there's potential, the OCT is not looking too bad. Why not put this lens in that gives them an increased range of focus? It doesn't harm them. So why? If it harms them, so there are some cases where a trifocal will harm the patient. If it doesn't harm them, why not put it in?
Yes.
Because at least you will, for example, increase the landing zone.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't have, you will have less refractive surprise, for example, in a post-LASIK patient. So this is the minimum extra benefit you give the patient with an isopure. The landing zone is broader.
You don't have to be as exact in your biometry with this lens because it's forgiving. The conoid of Sturm is extended. It's not a pinpoint.
Yeah, I understand the lens induce a positive spherical aberration. How much?
I don't know. I think that's proprietary. It varies. That's why the lens is different. Each lens is different.
Because it induces a positive spherical aberration to compensate the negative spherical aberration of the cornea, which is different in different
You can listen
persons.
to the gurus.
Huh?
It is different in different individuals. And in some cases, we don't get the extended range, but I've not found the answer. There are some patients that surprise us. They don't get the full range that you expect.
Yeah.
So in one eye, I have a classic patient. He sees really well at distance. He's plano, but he doesn't have the intermediate that we thought he would get. And I'm looked at his aberrations. I can't find the reason. But fortunately, in the other eye, he's -1. He's a doctor too, and he's okay.
Yeah. And one question more. You don't mix and match. But if you have a patient who has an eye suitable for trifocal and one eye not suitable, don't it mix trifocal with monofocal?
Why would I want to do that? So they can compare. I put a trifocal in both. And you'd be sometimes surprised what they come up with, what they can see.
You tell them they won't
They may not see as well.
so good with the other way.
So they may be amblyopic in one eye at 612.
Yeah.
Right? They're used to that. They're used to that vision.
Yeah,
And they're 612 up close too. Because when they look in that, they're fixed with one eye. But when they look to the left, if it's their left eye, they're using that eye. And they're used to that sort of level of vision. So why am I going to penalize them by putting a monofocal in and then they can't get anything up close?
Yes.
That's what they're used to.
Yeah, it's not only reading, but also
It's everything else, yeah.
picture looking. Thank you.
So my goal is give them the best possible range of focus I can.
But still, for example, when the other eye is amblyopic, I would never put a trifocal lens in an amblyopic eye. I would rather go with an isopure.
Well, I do. I've got a series of them. And it's amazing, sometimes they improve. Their amblyopia improves.
Okay.
So, a lot of times the amblyopia is anisometropic amblyopia, right? Or it could be from astigmatism. So if I correct all that, I correct the refractive error, and I made both eyes equivalent, they walk around with both eyes open. And then the nerve columns that are suppressed get desuppressed, and they start improving lines.
Okay. The patient must be very motivated then to adapt. Yeah.
They just adapt. They don't have to do anything, right?
We had a couple of patients where it really didn't work out.
And we tell them the worst. It may not be any better. I mean, if they're definitely amblyopic, that's not going to work. They're 630. But if they're close, 612, 615, 618, I would do it. And I've done it, and I don't have a problem with them. And I remind them, oh yes, that's your lazy eye, but I see a one-line improvement.
Okay.
And we share in their success. Well, I'm really pleased you've improved by a line. Yes, doctor, I've noticed that. And they'll tell you it's better. So don't penalize the patient because you got amblyopia in one eye. It's just going to make things worse.
Okay, I don't see post-hyperopic LASIK patients on this chart. Any specific reason?
Yeah, that's maybe the category you don't want to go.
No, I do
because
it.
of their steep.
I do it.
Okay.
I do it, and they do better than the myopic LASIK ones. I've got comparative data showing better contrast, better outcomes, better satisfaction. Post-hyperopic LASIK patients who've had trifocal lenses. 350 eyes plus.
He was asking about Isopure, I guess.
Isopure. Well, I've not done Isopure in post-hyperopic LASIK. I've done trifocals, so I've gone the full range.
Because the high negative asphericity wouldn't match well with the post-hyperopic laser eye. That's the one kind of category where you would be very careful.
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things that we're not doing in this situation, which we should do, is look at the eye trace and the ocular scatter and everything else to understand what's taking place. So these are early days, and I'm sure as people accumulate data, we'll get more and more information. And 50% of what we tell you today might not be what we tell you 5 years from now.
For trifocal lenses, do you always measure high order aberration prior to surgery? And what is your limitation?
Post, pre?
No, first pre, and if it was a post-LASIK patient, what is the number you say, no, I won't implant any trifocal lens?
I don't go purely by numbers. I assume the pupil size is going to be 4 millimeters, and we measure aberrations at 4 millimeters, not 6 millimeters, because that's what Pentacam does, that's what the standard. The ANSI standard for aberration measures is 6 millimeters, but on the OPD3 scan, you can go down to 4. You can do that also with the Pentacam. You have to play with it. Most people don't know how to do that, but I don't go by an absolute number. I go by the symmetry. If it's asymmetric, so if they have coma, that's a problem. But actually, a coma can help them get a range of focus anyway. So they may be good for an Isopure, give them even more. If they have spherical aberration, negative or positive, I don't care. I will use it anyway because the impact is small for 4 millimeters.
But like for coma, more than 0.3 or 0.4 will be considered as high numbers?
No, I mean, I've done 0.4 and above, but I won't go, you got to be, if it's more than 0.5, there's something wrong with that cornea, right? You can see it visually as well. And it's usually asymmetric. Spherical aberration won't give you, unless it's a very small, tiny zone, but then you can see that too. If you got really high positive spherical aberration, that's a problem with that eye to begin with. Great. Last question.
So you're very confident with trifocals. So who do you choose for the Isopure then?
Macular degeneration, glaucoma, dry eye, men with bad meibomian gland disease. So we check all those things. There's a process that we go through. If their surface regularity index is poor on the OPD3, I know, my staff know right away, that person needs a tear breakup time objectively measured. We don't bother with trifocals in those cases unless they're willing to go through IPL and omegas and deal with their eyelids. So there's a stepwise process. Glaucoma patients, diabetics, and so on.
And what do you promise them with the Isopure? Like vision?
Distance and intermediate.
Yeah. With the mini monovision.
And if they're lucky, they'll get near. So you're undersell it. I'm sure you do the same, right?
Yeah.
I tell them that for small, fine work, you're probably going to wear reading glasses. But most of them don't. So David's a colleague of ours. He's an ophthalmologist with us. His mother came to have cataract surgery with us, and we put in Isopure lenses. She does not wear glasses at all, right? She was a high hyperope. Anecdotal, but an example of the kind of patients we get.
1 out of 3 patients with Isopure, if you put a little bit of, if you play a little bit with minimum vision, they will be able to read without glasses. 1 out of 3.
So we found that, the 0.2 logMAR is the interesting bit. So we found that 42% of our patients, distance corrected, had near vision of 6.9. And newspaper print is about 6.12 to 6.15. So they could read a newspaper with the isopure lens in 42% of patients. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we didn't, that's distance corrected. So if you offset, they do get everything. Anyway, I'd like to thank Kristof.
Thank you, yeah.
That was a great discussion. I hope you took away some pearls. And happy to answer any further questions in time to come. Bye-bye.